Welcome back to another edition of NUIC Football. I am your host, Kyle Kampmeyer. Week 1 is in the books. There were a few surprises, but most of the week went as expected. Lena Winslow picked up the win in a highly touted matchup with Morrison 32-6. Cash Lessman was able to pick up 2 first-quarter passing touchdowns to Alex Schlichting and Miles Mann, going 2 for 3 on the night for 78 yards. Aiden Wild and Jayla Rakowska provided the other 2 scores as both guys rushed for 115 yards on the night. Colton Bielema picked up the lone score for Morrison on a QB keeper in the third quarter. Fulton hosted Forreston in another big game in the NUIC and across 1A and came away with a 28-0 win. The dual-threat QB Dom Kramer picked up 96 yards rushing with the touchdown and threw for 170 yards and another touchdown to help propel the win. Landon Liu led the receiving corps with 52 yards and a touchdown, while Skylar Crooks picked up a rushing touchdown, and Braden Myers returned an 86-yard kickoff return to the house. A game that opened up eyes across the state was between Du-Pec and Stockton, where the Rivermen prevailed 32-26. Cooper Hoffman did Cooper Hoffman things, going 17 for 20 for 262 yards and 3 touchdowns, while picking up 76 yards on the ground and 2 more touchdowns, giving him a total of 5 touchdowns on the night. Jackson Diedrich caught 8 passes for 152 yards and 2 scores. Brody Black pitched in with 70 yards receiving, and Jordan Gassman picked up a 20-yard touchdown reception. Despite the loss, Mark Detweiler rushed for 114 yards and 2 touchdowns for Stockton, while Noah Larson passed for 72 yards and a touchdown. Jack Mensendike added a touchdown pass for 21 yards, and Carter Blair and Eli Larson paced the receivers for Stockton, picking up 45 yards and 48 yards respectively, each collecting a touchdown catch. On the IHSA side, Milledgeville and Polo rolled as expected. Amboy faced off with Ridgewood in a rematch of the state title game. The Clippers pounded Ridgewood behind 356 yards rushing, led by Josh McKendry, who finished the night with 129 yards and 3 touchdowns. Braden Klein and Quinn Leffelman also eclipsed 100 yards on the night. Eddie Jones went 4 for 4 passing for 67 yards and 2 scores, and Caleb Llanos had 56 yards receiving with the touchdown, while Klein caught the other touchdown pass as Amboy won 36-8. West Carroll walked into their first game in IHSA action and walked out with a 64-14 win over River Ridge. The experience the Thunder have helped them to a big win, their first win since October 11th of 2019. Orangeville came up short in a back-and-forth game with Alden-Hebron as the Little Giants came away with the 36-22 win, avenging last year's 53-36 loss. Let's take a look as we break down Week 2 coming up right now. The first game we're going to look at is Dakota at Forreston. Both teams are entering this game with 0-1 marks. Dakota went on the road to Dwight and came back with a loss as they took it on the chin 49-0, trailing at halftime 42-0 to lead to the running clock opening up the second half. Forreston took a step back themselves, coming up empty in a 28-0 loss against Fulton. These two teams have been in some tight games over the past few seasons, and nothing should change there this Friday night. The Cards will have the advantage of playing in front of their fans at home. Both teams look to right the ship as starting 0-2 in the vaunted NUIC is a hard record to come back and make the playoffs from. Morrison at Galena is another game that contends 2 teams with 0-1 marks. Morrison had the toughest matchup, welcoming them to the NUIC, facing Lena Winslow, the team that has been to the state finals each of the past 4 seasons. They lost that battle 32-6, but put up a good fight and showed some resolve as they overcame a certain dagger to build momentum and keep that game alive. The end of the third quarter and start of the fourth quarter snowballed a bit on the Mustangs in the loss. Galena was tied with EPC at the half, but couldn't overcome a 2-touchdown third-quarter deficit as they were saddled with the loss 22-6. This will be a big game for both teams, and provided both come in healthy, The speed of the Mustangs might be too much for the Pirates to tame. EPC at Du-Pec is going to be one of the premier matchups this week in the NUIC as both teams enter the week 1-0. The Wildcats picked up a much-needed week 1 win to start the season, but they need to steal 2 more wins to be on the safe side of the playoff bubble. That will be a tall task unless they can provide endless pressure to shut down Cooper Hoffman and the high-octane Riverman offense. EPC will have opportunities to take advantage of an offense, provided they protect the ball and don't commit bad penalties. The Rivermen need to come ready to go. Surviving a tough Stockton team once again, Hoffman can only do so much, so the line play for Du-Pec will continue to have to prove themselves as the season progresses. This one favors Du-Pec heavily, but a renewed vision and a tough Cats team could make this one a game of interest in Week 2. Stockton will hit the road to travel to Benton, Scales Mountain, Shullsburg as they enter this week 0-1. They will face BSMS and look to get a win under their belt. What they showed on Friday proved that they can play with the top teams in the NUIC, but that isn't enough if you can't collect the wins needed to make the playoffs. Mark Detweiler and Noah Larson got off to good starts for the season and will look to carry that over to a game that favors the Blackhawks. If they can get the run game going effectively, watch out as this game could open up as it goes on.
Our 11-man game of the week is brought to you by Best Realty. Best Realty has been helping Northern Illinois tackle their real estate needs since 1990. Whether you're buying or selling, in the market for residential, commercial, or acreage, they'll help you get the best deal. Call the Best Realty team at 815-248-3408 or visit them online at bestrealtyproperties.com.
Our Best Realty game of the week features Fulton at Lena Winslow. Both teams are state-ranked. Both teams come in with matching 1-0 marks. The Steamers opened up the season with a big win over Forreston, as we stated in the opening, but they now draw one of the biggest tests of the season, and it is only week 2. Dom Kramer was a guy who came into his own towards the end of 2023 and has opened up 2024 with a bang. If the Steamers can win the advantage up front, this could provide some fireworks across the NUIC and across the state. Lena Winslow has a 17-game winning streak in the NUIC, and they look to keep that win streak going. A little banged up coming out of week 1, they should be ready to roll come Friday night with that 1-2 punch of Wild and Rakowska. The Panthers may be smaller, but they do appear faster. This one comes down to the old cliche, the one that wins the line will win the game. The Panthers are the heavy favorite, but it is still early in the year where anything can happen, so don't count out the Steamers.
This portion of our broadcast is brought to you by Diedrich Epoxy Flooring. Serving Northern Illinois and Southern Wisconsin, Diedrich Epoxy is the source for all of your epoxy needs. Give Diedrich Epoxy Flooring a call today at 815-239-1158 for your free estimate.
As we move into IHSA action, the first game we're going to look at is Amboy at West Prairie. Amboy enters with a 1-0 mark while West Prairie enters at 0-1. Amboy didn't disappoint in their opening game win over Ridgewood as the Clippers ran for over 300 yards with 3 different backs and proved to the state why they are the number 1 team in IHSA. This week they take on new division opponent West Prairie. The Cyclones were a playoff team last year, but after losing 36-22 to Flanagan Cornell Woodland last week, the door looks dimmer with a tough gauntlet to get through over the next 5 weeks. Heading to Amboy to take on the Clippers will be a large task, but somewhere they'll need to steal some wins in the coming weeks if they look to get back to the playoffs. Look for Amboy to stay on the throttle and roll in this one. Polo heads west as they travel to River Ridge and enter the game with a 1-0 mark. River Ridge enters the game at 0-1. Both teams return inexperienced players, but Polo has a bit more to pull from, having a bunch of guys who have been part of a past semifinal teams and getting opportunities to play in those games. This will provide the Marcos with a large advantage as they hit the road for the first time this season. River Ridge has had some bumps and bruises, and once healthy, they could return to the form we saw them last year as they battled back to make a run to the playoffs. Week 1 was a tough loss to a newcomer in IHSA action in West Carroll, but the Wildcats still have plenty to play for. If they can come out and match the intensity of the Marcos, they could see themselves in the game longer than the projections show. But early signs have Polo running away with this one. Milledgeville travels to Alden-Hebron as both teams enter the game 1-0. The Missiles walked away with an 80-8 win over AFC. Micah Tom Smith had 3 special teams touchdowns, returning a kickoff and 2 punts. Evan Shank completed 3 passes, with 2 of those going for touchdowns. Connor Johnson rushed for 81 yards on 2 attempts, both for touchdowns. The Little Giants pulled out a win over Orangeville as they were able to stretch the lead late to come out with a 2-touchdown win. Many people believe that this year could be the year of the Missiles, but they still have a lot to prove and accomplish to make it happen. This week won't be one of those, as the Missiles will run away with this one fast. Orangeville travels to South Beloit in Week 2 as both teams enter the game at 0-1. Orangeville couldn't keep up with the Little Giants last week as 4 costly, unsportsmanlike penalties would come back to bite them, as they typically do. A close game turned into a 2-touchdown loss as they let Alden-Hebron pull away. Now, they get to try and get back in the win column against the South Beloit team that was pounded by Polo. This is not a must-win game, but it is a pivotal game for both teams if they want to see the playoff picture a little more clear going into Week 3. West Carroll hits the road for the first time this year as they travel to Hiawatha. They enter the game with a 1-0 record, while Hiawatha is 0-1. West Carroll stormed onto the scene in their IHSA debut with a 64-14 win over River Ridge. The Thunder look to keep that going as they hit the road to Kirkland and play the Hawks. Hiawatha is coming off a tough 6-0 loss to Christian Life. If the Thunder can come out of this game with the win, it will make that playoff picture much brighter and begin to shine some light on the program. West Carroll is the favorite in this game and look to move to 2-0 on the season.
Our NUICfootball.com state rankings are presented by Leading Edge Fundraising. If you need to raise funds for new uniforms, tournament expenses, equipment, or more, look no further. Brandon Sharp at Leading Edge makes it easy for you and your team to have a fun and competitive way to raise funds for your program. Give Brandon a call today at 563-514-1647. Leading Edge Fundraising, your premier fundraising company.
Our panel has put together our state rankings for NUICfootball.com once again, and we will break those down right now, starting with 8-man. Coming in at number 1 are the Amboy Clippers as they are 1-0. Polo also improved to 1-0, and they are at number 2. Milledgeville remains at number 3 as they are also 1-0. Coming in at number 4 is Martinsville as they won their game in Week 1. Flanagan Cornell Woodland moves up to number 5, while Pawnee makes the move up to number 6. South Fork is 1-0, and they move up to number 7. Coming in at number 8 is West Central, also 1-0, and Milford Cisna Park remains at number 9 as they pick up the forfeit win to move to 1-0. Falling down to number 10 is St. Thomas More as they took the loss and are 0-1. Other teams that received votes were Bushnell Prairie City at 1-0, Alden-Hebron at 1-0, and Orangeville at 0-1. Moving into Class 1A, not a lot of changes here as number 1 is still Camp Point Central as they are 1-0, and following them at number 2 is Althoff Catholic at 1-0. Lena Winslow is number 3. Number 4 is Anawan Weathersfield. And at number 5 is Aurora Christian. Making their jump up the state rankings this week is Fulton to number 6 as they beat Forreston to move to 1-0. Hope Academy falls down to number 7 as they are 0-1. Morrison drops to number 8 as they also are 0-1. Leroy breaks into the top 10 and are at number 9 at 1-0. And rounding out the top 10 is Greenfield Northwestern at 1-0. Other teams to receive votes were Calhoun, Newman Central Catholic, Rockford Lutheran, Hayworth, Rova Williamsfield, KZ Westfield, and Cesar-Valier. Moving into Class 2A at number 1, still remains the same, Maroa Forsyth, as they improved to 1-0, and following them is Bloomington Central Catholic, also at 1-0. At number 3 is Rockridge at 1-0, and number 4 is Tri-Valley. Coming at number 5 and moving up the list is Farmington, as they are 1-0, and at number 6 is Shelbyville at 1-0. Athens drops down to number 7 with their loss as they come in at 0-1, and Quincy Notre Dame sits at number 8, also at 0-1. Johnston City moves up to number 9, and Mater Dei drops down to number 10. Rounding out the votes for Class 2A is Chester, Moments, Pana, Chicago Christian, El Paso Gridley, and Bismarck Henning, Rossville Allen. And taking a look at Class 3A, once again, not a lot of changes here, a lot of chalk in this division. Byron is number 1 at 1-0. Number 2 is Montini, also 1-0. Number 3 is Princeton. Number 4 is Wilmington. Number 5 is Tolono Unity. Number 6 is Williamsville. Number 7 is Seneca. Number 8 is Du-Pec. Number 9 is Nashville. And number 10 is Monmouth Roseville. Other teams that received votes were St. Joe Ogden, Roxana, and Eureka. So that gives you a look at our NUIC.com state rankings as we head into week number 2. Week 2 is never a make it or break it week, but there are some pivotal games that can loom large into that playoff picture as we get closer to Selection Saturday on October 26th. It'll be another fun week of games as we get to see some cooler temperatures this weekend, making it feel more like fall. Get out and support your teams this week. It'll be a great weekend to do so. And as always, root for the NUIC. Stop that one. We're going to start all over.